Okay, I think I will start. I'm sure we'll get more people joining as we move forward today. Again, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, everyone in Nigeria and West Africa. My name is Mark Leclerc, and I'm the head of stakeholder engagement at Farm Radio International, and I'll be hosting today. As you can see, we have a very packed schedule. We have 7 different speakers. So we will be, I will try to actually introduce each of them as we go, just so we can save some time off the start. What we'll be talking about today is building agriculture and agribusiness using radio and ICTs. We're going to have members of the Farm Radio International team from Ghana and from Nigeria speaking, but we'll also have some of our closest partners on the ground in Nigeria share some of their experiences with using interactive radio for development. And we're going to focus a little bit on both pre and post-pandemic experiences. So what has it been like during this COVID-19 year of 2020, but also what is it like also in the normal circumstances as well? As I mentioned earlier, we do have the Q&A at the bottom. So if you have questions, please direct them to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. If you do want to introduce yourself, please use the chat. And if you want to share any resources or anything like that, please do so as we go. So this is the agenda for today. So again, it's quite packed. So we're going to try to move forward as much as we can here, focusing on some of the results from Farm Radio, moving into some of our specific results in Nigeria, and then hearing from some of our partners as well as the farmer perspective, the agribusiness perspective, gender equality, and then also from one of our radio partners on the ground in Nigeria. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce one of our longest staff, actually. But Ben has been with us for, I think, 13 years. Ben is our country representative from Ghana, and he's worked with Farm Radio International implementing numerous communication for development projects focused on improving livelihoods and food security in Ghana and in the West African region. Ben, welcome. And could you please explain a little bit about Farm Radio International's work, just to start us off?
Ben, you're on mute there, just
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you to all our participants joining us for this morning's or this afternoon's webinar, depending on where you are. Farm Radio International is a communication for development organization, and I believe this afternoon I have a meeting that will help me to again defend the work that we do. It has to do with question that somebody asks, that in 2020, why radio? And I believe that during the webinar today, we will get to know why we are still using radio and why radio is still very relevant. So Farm Radio International is one of the only organizations that is using radio and other ICTs globally. And we believe that radio is very, very relevant because practically everyone and everywhere you are, you can have access to a radio signal in any language that is being used by the people. And also, you can also, with this current situation, you can also have the opportunity to interact with radio. We know that radio works because it is always available. We know that it is very easy to have access to information using radio, and it is also cost effective. When we look at, for example, the COVID situation, passing out relevant information, it was very easy to use radio to reach thousands of listeners. Again, it is also cost effective to share knowledge using radio because it is not just information, but radio is able to give knowledge and also change behavior. It is also very convenient because you can be listening and at the same time do one or two things that may not hinder your ability to listen to the radio program. And it is widespread. For example, we work with a number of radio stations in Nigeria, and every state you have more than 2 radio stations or more. So it is not something that you are limited to, and you can have access to a radio wherever you are. When anyone opens the radio, you can also listen. And in terms of expenses compared to face-to-face extension approach, radio is not that expensive. From our work that we have done for the past 10 years, we can tell you that it costs 5 cents to share extension message to a farming family, which comparatively it's not that expensive. And it is very nimble. Within a short time, radio information can reach thousands of people with just one broadcast. And we believe that one extension officer can share information with thousands of people. And it is very interactive, bringing in the new ICTs like the mobile phone and the mobile platform application. This makes radio listeners call in to leave questions, to also ask questions when radio programming is going on, because Farm Radio had developed what we call the Uliza system that allow as many people as possible to call in before program, after the program, and these questions and comments are all available to the radio team and the resource person to respond to. So it has made radio more and more interactive. And I always say that when it comes to radio, when you do your radio well, you will have results. And for the past 10 years, we can say that up to 40% of farmers who learn about new practices that we use, we develop radio programs on, are able to apply it on their farm or in the specific area of concern. And as I mentioned, it costs just about 50 cents to provide one farming family with this information. And any development area, not only farming, because some of our programs, as we know, are not farming related, but they are all to the farming family. Within the period, Farm Radio had worked with all these partners that we see. We have worked with them directly and some of them indirectly. And in Nigeria, we have worked with GIZ, we have worked with MEDA, we have worked with Pizera Global, Access Agriculture, TechnoServe, Rockefeller Foundation on various projects. And I believe we will be hearing more about this project as we go on. When it comes to the work we do, we work in 3 main areas. And the first one is radio resources. Farm Radio develop content or script or relevant information readily available for radio station and extension officers to use in sharing with their listeners. This information is well researched and well written and approved by various experts for use in all countries. And again, within these radio resources, we also have materials that are available for training broadcasters on various techniques and methods of doing radio. Aside that, we also have various training packages, some in the form of online training. We also have online discussion and then face-to-face training for broadcasters. And we use this to improve the capacity of our radio partners to ensure lasting sustainability of our project. We also work in the area of radio innovation. This brings to mind a question that I asked, that I will be answering later in the afternoon. Why are we still using radio? Because we believe that radio is still relevant, and how can we ensure that it takes advantage of the new technologies that are coming up. That is the work of this department. As a result of this, we have, as an organization, invested in research and development, where we have identified various ways mobile platform can allow radio services to be available before, during, and after the radio program. How listeners can have access to information even after the radio program, so that they can call in, listen to messages, and also leave questions and comments, which helps everyone who is part of the program to receive feedback from the listeners. We also use the same system to do polling of farmers, asking them series of questions, and this information also make the radio program very lively, interactive, because within a short time you have thousands of feedback from your listeners that help them to understand what you are sharing with them, and also help you, the resource person, to respond to their needs. And we have a platform called Uliza out of this radio innovation. And the final part is the radio projects, or the impact project. The impact project allow us to work on range of topics and work with various international and local partners to ensure that we implement development programs using the communication for development approaches that Farm Radio has developed, from how to conduct a baseline up to final evaluation, using the radio approach, different types of radio approaches that respond to the needs of a specific project. So if there is the need to do a presentation on the issue of behavior change, we know the specific approach to use. Within Nigeria, we have worked extensively to provide our resources to our listeners, to the extent that within the project, we have more than 18 million listeners who are regularly listening to programs from the radio programs that we've been doing. And we have more than 30,000 interaction from these radio programs. And also in terms of radio partners, we have 62 radio partners that we are currently working with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, that was very good. So I'm just gonna go forward to, okay, just a second. So thank you, Ben. We're gonna move forward to Blessing. So our next speaker, Blessing Wachia, is a project officer with Farm Radio International, based in Nigeria. Since Farm Radio International's launch in 2018 in Nigeria, Blessing has overseen a number of projects for us and concentrated on ensuring both gender equality and food security are improved through the programs. Blessing, could you give us a little bit more context on Farm Radio International's current work and past work in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. My name is Blessing, like Mark just introduced, so I'll just go straight to results from Nigeria, what we've done so far with past projects, and what we do as Farm Radio in Nigeria through our projects. We have worked in Kano State, Plateau, Gombe, Adamawa, and Bauchi states in Nigeria, working on interactive farmer radio programs using radio and ICT, especially the mobile phone, just like you heard from Ben. And what we do, the first thing we do is to do an extensive work on research, gathering data, qualitative, quantitative data on the needs of the farmers and the value chain actors, the knowledge gaps that are necessary to be filled, priorities of communities, and then we work with knowledge and implementing partners to get this done. So the first thing we do is to take a little survey an extensive survey. Let me not call it little because it's extensive to know the gap.
Blessing, we might have dropped you off there. Can you hear us?
That are, sorry?
Go ahead. Go ahead. We hear you now. We dropped you off just for about 30 seconds.
Unstable, yeah. So where we have the program design, we have the program design in the previous slide where this design has to do with content development. We have the stakeholders, the farmers, the radio stations come together and design the content we're going to present, which is very abnormal compared to what is obtainable from most programs or radio projects like this. And then after that, we go into training of the radio broadcasters to be equipped in such a way that they're able to broadcast interactive radio programs that will meet farmer needs. And then we go into the production. With the production again, we have what we call the studio production. And then with the studio production, we have quality assurance. Our quality assurance comes in two ways. The first is that we have feedback from our farmers from the field, where we have 24 hours non-stop feedback system. We call it Uliza or Tambaya system, where the farmer is able to ask questions at any point in time, midnight, morning, afternoon, or any time, to ask questions that bother him or her pertaining his or her farm. And then we have those questions sent to our extension workers and experts to look at those questions, answer them as it meets standards, and then we relate it back to the farmers. And then we have our monitoring and evaluation, where we also write reports to give back to our partners. And then, like the quality assurance I mentioned earlier, we also look at the radio stations, what they are producing, and be able to assess them and then give them feedback again to make their work better on a weekly basis. Next slide. Okay, so the next project, that's refill project, where we have reducing food loss in the tomato value chain. Hello, Mark. Okay, so let me continue until the next slide will be on refill project, where we have reducing food loss in the tomato value chain. This was done in Kano State, where we had what we call refill project. Our aim and target was to reduce food loss in the tomato value chain by 50%. And then the program promoted the application of proven post-harvest management technologies and solutions to the tomato value chain, where we have issues with post-harvest losses in Kano State. And after with that project, we had an end-line report that came up with 1.54 million people were reached in that program. And then we have 30,000 plus farmers reached via mobile phone. And we also have 42.9% uptake of post-harvest handling practices among listeners. So those people who listened, we had a survey at the end of the project in Kano State, where we have 42.9% uptake of practices. People began to practice better, and so the results came out better with the losses in tomato. Before now, they were losing almost everything to post-harvest losses, but after this project, there was improvement by 42.9% of that issue. So our takeaway from this whole project was that multi-channel approaches are more effective at scaling up agricultural solutions. Why do I say multi-channel approach? We use both radio, we use video videos, yeah, and then we use phones and then ICT to tackle that issue, and we came out with that, a lesson we learned from that. Our implementing partner was Rockefeller Foundation, and in that refuel project, we have farmers uptake at least 3 tomato post-harvest practices by radio listenership, video viewership, and training participation. Okay, so then we have we worked on the potato project in Plateau State, sponsored by Green Innovation, GIZ, where we call it the GREGI. We were working on Irish potato specifically to increase knowledge and uptake of improved practices for potato production in Plateau State. And then we had, at the end of that interaction, or at the end of the project, we had 266,000 people reached, 13,779 farmers reached via mobile phone. We also have 130,000 uptake of improved planting materials. So that was a very huge success to us, because more people changed into improved planting materials. And the lessons we learned from this project is that face-to-face interactions can be bolstered by parallel radio programs with similar messages. So the radio program came almost like the face-to-face training, but this time like a scale, bigger level. We reached more people, and all of that. So results, one of the slides will show that results show that about 56.2% of farmers made changes by uptake of improved planting materials. And then information dissemination as COVID-19. By the time we were trying to be done, towards the end of the project, we saw that COVID took over, and then farm radio was also proactive in this, because we're used to working from a distance, and we saw results that 4.7%, 47.6% said that the information we gave them through the radio content on COVID was very useful. 48.8% said it was useful, 1.2% said it was a little useful, and 2.4% said not useful at all. But the most important thing is that information content during the COVID, even while the whole world was on lockdown, people were not moving, we were still passing this information through our farmers, and then we had good results, because 47.6% said it was very useful. It helped them to stay clear of COVID. Right, so we also have our sustainability strategy. Most development organizations worry about this, and it's all on continuity. How do we continue this project even after the project has ended? That's a major question for most development agencies, but that's not the case with Farm Radio International, because most of our projects, we inculcate the issue of sustainability from the beginning, right from the formative research, where we have to include from the producers. We do sponsorship scoping, where we include the producers to the processors, the input extension agents, even the consumers are carried along on this, on how do we maintain this? How do we all take ownership of this project, so that even when the funders have stopped funding the project, it continues. This is part of what we did with the PropCom project. And right now, we have seen that PropCom project, the 3 radio stations we work with in Adamawa, Gombe, and Bauchi have right now attracted up to 2 million naira plus sponsorship. And the latest I heard is that more sponsorship have just come in for Globe FM in Bauchi. And that's thanks to our sustainability strategy in Farm Radio International. And so let me talk about our emergency response. We talked about it earlier on the COVID, where the world was looking for a solution, but Farm Radio was already proactive to this, where we have our strategy on ground to train from a distance. We were able to also train our radio stations from a distance remotely, via the internet, the phone. Also, we trained them, equipped them to be able to produce interactive radio programs. We also did even marketing training, design workshop is going on, even remotely, without even being there face to face. So nothing stops us from doing our job, not even COVID did, and COVID will not also stop us. So this is what we do and how we've done our work so far in Nigeria. And lastly, let me talk about the gender. Gender is another issue that most development organizations are actually always looking for solutions to, especially here in Nigeria, where we have most times men are always there on the radio, everywhere, but we were looking for ways to get women to also speak, so balancing everything. So from the formative research, we are intentional about being gender equality conscious, and from the beginning, from the very start, we are intentional about gender equality and inclusion. And so we do that from our formative research, where we must find out from women what they think, what they say, what their voices do matter to us. And so gender issues are very key issues for us, and through the formative, to the design, to the program broadcast, even our radio presenters, we have the male, we have the female, we have the resource persons, we have the male, we have the female experts coming into the studio to speak with on issues, very topical issues. Yeah, we would not say we are where we are or we want to be yet in terms of gender equality, but we definitely have left where we were, because right now we are consciously, intentionally including women in our design, women in our broadcast, women in resource, from our resource persons. And then we have in the Kano project, we also have a line dedicated already to women callers only, where women will only call that line, and it has encouraged more women to come out to speak during our programs. Even farmer questions coming in from the Uliza, the Tambaya line, we have more women coming out right now to ask questions and be answered. And so we have this community listening group where we have women-only groups, who form their own groups and listen to this program together in the villages. And so this has encouraged us to even do more in terms of gender equality and inclusion. And so for the GIZ project, we have 13,779 interactions through our Uliza mobile phone system. We have 422 interactions weekly, and we have 1% male and 19% female. Like I said, we are not where we want to be yet, but we definitely have left where we were, and we're intentional about all of this. Thank you so much. That's what we've done so far in Nigeria. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Blessing. That was excellent. So we have gotten a few questions. We are trying to answer those as we go. There may be a few that might be better actually answered not in text. So we might leave a few of those for the end of the session. So we'll move on to our next speaker, who is Dr. Stephen Babajide, who is a representative from GIZ, the German Development Organization, at its Green Innovation Center. Stephen, Dr. Babajide, I think GIZ was particularly well placed to move when the pandemic started in March and April. What informed your decision to use radio, and how has it worked for you and as for GIZ as part of your programming, especially during the pandemic?
Thank you, Mark. Hope you can hear me. Yeah, good. Okay, with respect to the Green Innovation Project and how radio has helped us, I think it would be good for me to quickly mention some few things about the project. You know, in Nigeria, the Green Innovation Project supports 4 agricultural value chains. And we are talking about maize, cassava, rice, and Irish potato across 8 states in Nigeria. The primary aim is to improve income and productivity of the smallholder farmers. And we use a lot of direct training to reach 25,000 farmers on good agricultural practice and farmer business school. And additionally, we have a target to reach 400,000 farmers using information and communication technologies. And we work with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Department of Extension, and then the ADPs at the state level. And for us to be able to reach our goals, our targets, we consider the ratio of extension agents to farmers, as we know, and then looking at radio as being very cost effective, and the fact that majority of the farmers have access to and listen to radio. So we started our initial discussion in the second half of 2018. COVID-19 was not here then. It's now a benefit that we started that initiative. So we reached some agreement with Farm Radio International with the very primary purpose of increasing knowledge and uptake of innovations that we have been passing across to farmers through direct training, and also to be able to improve market linkages and increase collaboration with our partners. So effectively in 2019, we started implementation of this project, piloting it in the potato value chain in Plateau State, with the focus on developing the capacity of the local institutions and partners, and then having the participatory radio campaigns, using local language, that is very important, and then sharing success stories on GAP, with the ultimate goal of increasing adoption of GAP and promising business opportunities for private sector actor within our value chain. So with regards to whether the radio has been very useful for us in reinforcing our messages, we say yes. The positive results we are getting can confirm that. I want to talk about the listenership. Blessing mentioned that already. And we've also noticed that in terms of understanding of farmers, that improved significantly. More also, we talk about the increase in that adoption of the training innovations, and that leading to increase in income and productivity. But what is of utmost importance also to us is the improvement in farmer-to-farmer knowledge exchange. And these results that we have got is one of the reasons why GIZ, having assessed what we did in the potato value chain, the management decided to upscale this interactive radio program to all the states and the value chains of the project because of the good result we got. And I need to also mention here that during the lockdown, while the challenges were everywhere and everything was, as it were, affected, the direct trainings could not go as planned. But interestingly, the radio program was able to maneuver its way and was still able to reach our audience effectively. And interestingly, the program also provided us opportunity to disseminate COVID-19 information and guidelines to farmers. And from what Blessing presented, a lot of the listeners find that very useful. And I just imagine if the radio program was not there, I would have been able to achieve that. And also, some of the lessons we have learned now is that direct training approaches or messages can better be reinforced through interactive radio program, and that can also lead to increase in adoption of innovation. I don't want to repeat what Blessing already presented. You can see details there. And that with radio, we can actually read a wide audience through the radio program. The listenership was very high, but more importantly, like I mentioned, we appreciate the fact that farmers were able to share the lessons they are learning with other farmers. In extension, we refer to that as farmer-to-farmer extension, and that is very, very useful for the project. And that's what led the management to decide that with this measure of results we have got, it will be a good time for us to expand that to the 3 other value chains, and now in the 8 states. And we hope we'll be able to get better results. Thank you. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Dr. Babajide. I think we're ready. I think we're ready to expand as well. So let's talk after the webinar, perhaps. Let me get back to the slides here. Okay, So we're going to move on to our next speaker. Let's see here. Our next speaker is Mr. Emmanuel Shippey. Emmanuel is a potato farmer in the Pangshin local government area of the Plateau State in Nigeria. He is also the chairman of the state's Potato Farmers Association and has received a number of trainings under the GIZ program that we've been talking about today. Welcome, Emmanuel.
So this time around, as my name is Emmanuel Shippey, the chairman of the Solanum Potato and Vegetable Producers and Marketers Association. I have been privileged to be even a resource person, most especially in this program of the radio program. I am privileged to have been involved in the design of the workshop and the research activities. We have really seen a lot of benefit from this project, from this program. And we have seen a massive and unprecedented mobilization of the farmers through this program, who are now really conscientized and are becoming more aware and interested in the potato production. Being a resource person, we've had a lot of interactions with the farmers who have asked series of questions to purge themselves of the ignorance that have lingered so long and affected production in terms of quality and quantity. Yes, the benefits are so numerous to mention, so significant, because we've seen a lot of youths and women coming in to be part of this project, most especially when the radio program started. We saw a lot of women coming in to ask questions, and not even asking questions alone, most especially during the production period, the rain-fed production, which began in most cases in April and May, and continued to the harvest period. And as I've said, that had been demonstrated by a lot of requests and demands for the seeds that are always available for farmers to go into production, the youth have said, and the women. And this has addressed a lot of problems. And we've also seen the need for sustainability of this program. And that on our own, most especially the association at the apex level, we have resolved in our series of meetings to see what we can do on our own to sustain this program. And it was generally resolved that after harvest, which was done around between August up to September, and it's going to continue in this irrigated production, which has just started. Most farmers have gone into production. That immediately after harvest, about 20 kg of wear size of the potato should be aggregated by every member, which at the end will be sold out, and the proceeds from the sales will be made available for the quality or sustainability of this program. Again, I just feel significant to mention that there are a lot of formations of groups coming up from this program. They feel there's need for them to come as a cooperative with one prospect or objective or aim to see how they can improve in this sector. Recently, we've seen a particular group known as Women for Women from Pangshin local government, other areas too, coming in to identify themselves with this project. And we have seen a lot of women too, during periods of broadcast, having a cluster to listen to the radio program and even ask questions. And so many things like this are happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. That was excellent. Really interesting. Good perspective from the farmer perspective. We're going to go on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is, let me just bring it up here, is Lomac Yakubu. Lomac is a farmer and a field procurement manager with Fruits and Veggies, a processing company located in Jos in Plateau State in Nigeria. Lomac, can you give us some perspective from someone working in agribusiness when it comes to interactive radio?
Okay, actually, we've benefited immensely through the radio program in the state here. Most of the stakeholders at the potato value chain, sometimes back just on their own. But with the intervention of GIZ to bring this radio program, we're able to identify most of the stakeholders, the partners, the resource persons within the value chain. We are all aware that as a processor, you need virtually all the key stakeholders to make up a complete chain. Where you have a weak link, definitely the entire value chain will suffer. We're able to, through this radio program, identify with the producers, the farmers from the villages. Again, we're able to even identify with the service providers, mechanization, the input providers, and so many agencies, and then the processors also. We all know the challenge faced, and the radio program have addressed most of these challenges in terms of getting the right inputs for the farmers, in terms of getting a qualitative input like the seeds, the involvement of the producers, the farmers, and then giving the farmer again another option of selling his produce, knowing exactly what the market price is. So you can just see the radio program has played a very vital role, especially in coordinating these various stakeholders to make up a complete system. We as a company, we've tried our best, and then we tried to set up the platform. And this came through the intervention of the radio program because other stakeholders were able to identify them. And then in order to sustain this program, we know leaving this program halfway, we are not too sure it will help. We want to continue to motivate other stakeholders so they can see the need that this program continues in future. I so much believe with the intervention of the radio program, farmers were able to contribute and ask questions directly at the local language in which they understand best, and where to trace even inputs, qualitative inputs. Most of the times you go to a market, you see inputs that are not even up to date or fake inputs, but the radio program creates an opportunity for the farmers to identify those inputs that are right for them to use. The intervention on the seed issue, which the radio program has largely helped to propagate, to tell the farmers about the incoming seeds, the cooperative formation, registration of cooperative, reaching out even, between the farmers and government, the markets and other things. I think the entire value chain will be blessed if this program continues. We intend to continue and then to do our best to see how it will be sustained. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lomac. It's interesting to hear the business perspective when it comes to farming. Sometimes that's left out of the conversation. So great. So we're going to move on. And again, we are seeing the questions that are coming in. Hopefully we're giving a few good answers, and we'll save some time at the end to perhaps get some deeper answers on some of those questions. So we're going to move on. Our next speaker is Dr. Vo Shut. She is a lecturer with the Department of Plant Science and Biotechnology at the University of Jos in Nigeria. Dr. Vo is a resource person for Farm Radio International in some of the programs that we run with PRTV. Can you speak a little bit towards the idea of developing gender inclusive content for programs, and also just generally speak to how gender equality is implemented through some of these programs?
Good afternoon, all. Can all hear me? My name is Dr. Shut, like he has said. I'll be speaking from the gender perspective. I would want to say that the program we have been running on Plateau Radio has had a very good content, and the language has been understood by both gender. The selection as well of the presenters of that program and resource persons is also based on gender, and gender is based on expertise, and gender is also considered. The program is quite interesting because it's a lady who presents the program, even though males feature in different segments. It's just to emphasize that the gender has been included and carried along as we go on in the program on PRTV. The farmer voices or the feedback we get is also gender inclusive, even though sometimes the female gender is the feedback from the female gender is not at par with that of the male gender. And I can say that it's not because the males understand it better, but we also know that it could be culture. We also can see that it could be culturally related, or sometimes the female gender is not said to have had so much confidence like the male gender. In fact, in one of our workshops, our content development workshop, someone suggested that we should maybe give them a toll-free line, and so that they could call in, and then or put in some incentive like giving something to the first 3 female callers, just to spur them to make more phone calls, and to spur others as well to come on through the phone calls. I would also say that this has helped remarkably because we have seen an improvement in the gender representation. The program on the Plateau Radio is usually repeated, and the program is usually in the evening, but it is repeated even in the afternoon on another day. I'm sure that this also targets the female gender, because even though sometimes they're busy in the kitchen in the evening and they probably didn't concentrate very well, they could feel better or concentrate more while they are listening to the repeat program. So that, I think, carries along the female gender in the farm radio program. The program has recorded a number of successes because there's improved responsiveness and effectivity from both gender, particularly the female gender, I can say. And then the medium has been used to disseminate useful and timely extension services that are sustained and effective. And from the feedback that we get from these farmer voices, we have seen that there are improved farm practices, which has impacted on crop production. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Schutt. As we all know, women often don't have the same type of access to radio, so it's good to hear that there's some innovative things happening to try to bridge that gender digital divide that we always hear about. So saying that, I'm going to move back to the presentation here. Our final presenter, and we would be remiss if we didn't have one of our radio partners in the webinar. So as our final speaker, I wanted to introduce Prince Daniel Aboki. He is the general manager at Cool FM, Wazobia FM and Ariwa Radio. And these are some of the stations that we worked with in our programs in Nigeria. Prince Daniel, do you want to speak a little bit to your experience with working on these types of development projects through radio, through interactive radio, and just give that perspective from the radio production side of things?
Just a note, you're on mute at the moment, so if you could please unmute.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this privilege. I'll just go straight, haven't been introduced, I'll go straight to the business of the day. First, I'll just do a quick background of Arewa Radio, which commenced operation just 4 years ago. And we're excited that it is already among the top 4 of the 17 radio stations operating here in Kano. And the audience base, according to the MPS data, says we're ranked 4 with 2,862,441 listeners. And that is massive for a station that is just 4 years old, where there are other stations that are as old as 9, 10, and even 17 years old. And apart from that, Arewa Radio is now the second highest on engagement on the social media space, especially on Facebook in the whole Nigeria. And that's out of 570 radio stations broadcasting in Nigeria. Arewa Radio has a following of over 355,483 followers. And it is the most vibrant on social media of any station in northern Nigeria. Now, before our partnership with Farm Radio International, we had other programs, and then we also have a program focused on agriculture. We called it Nebuke. But when Farm Radio International came on board with Tomato Denriba, which is a program on the value chain of tomato, we realized that we did not explore all aspects of program packaging, especially the component of research, because it opened our eyes when we started the design workshop that, oh, we could actually ground our programs from the beginning, from design. And that was what that training did to us as a team. And because when we participated in the process of the production, it impacted not only on the core program, which was Tomato Denriba, but also in our other programs, because as a matter of policy in our station, is that anybody attending any training would have to come and share resources with the other team members so that the multiplier effect will impact on other programming. Another landmark that we've also achieved working with Farm Radio International was when the equipment and the funding came. It gave the program and even other programs a leap. So on some of the successes we have recorded with Tomato Denriba as a radio program was that until we started Tomato Denriba, the farmers were using raffia baskets to pack and supply the produce. But now they have adopted the plastic crate as advocated from the program. Also, another landmark achievement was that the farmers now see the need and are also adopting this staggering production approach as against the long-standing traditional practice. This to us was a thing of pride that was coming an offshoot of the program that we are doing with Farm Radio International. In addition, other feats that we've achieved is that our ability to continue the program on the same format even during the lockdown was because we were able to embrace technology as we've learned from the training and from the field engagement, that we could be able to continue to sustain the program, even though the farmers couldn't go to the farm due to the lockdown necessitated by COVID-19, by bringing in the guests as well as the farmers to a live radio program using technology. And so we also intend to sustain the program because it's beneficial to us as a station, as well as to our listeners. And being that our team were carried along from the beginning from inception. It makes it easier for us to just customize the program or domesticate the program and own the program. And anytime we have our team going on any platform such as this, we ensure that they learn everything they could learn, so that once the support is withdrawn, they can be able to stand on their own and we continue the programs, especially that we know that the program is beneficial to our listeners. And to round up, I'll also use this opportunity to say that the impact of the partnership with Farm Radio International is something we cherish very greatly. And the position of our station on the NPS cannot be unconnected with our partnership with Farm Radio International, especially in redefining how agricultural programs were produced and were also perceived up until now. So we are also sensitive to the gender, especially that we are broadcasting in the northern part of Nigeria, is that we needed to get the women to contribute and also to participate. So what we did was we came up with special lines which are toll-free on us, and those were made to be dedicated to the female callers so that they will participate. And good enough, we have seen by tracking that the women have started participating even at early in the mornings programs, as well as in the evening, and not only the agricultural programs. So I'll use this opportunity on behalf of our management to say thank you to Farm Radio International and to everybody that is listening to us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prince Daniel. So it's really interesting to hear how the inner workings of a radio station work when it comes to development programs, because it's not something people talk about very often, and I think you're often the unsung heroes when it comes to this type of work. So that's the end of our speakers today. I think this is the first time in history that we've had a webinar perfectly on time. So congratulations to all the speakers today for keeping completely on time. And we will move into Q&A. But first, I did want to thank everyone, all the speakers on behalf of Farm Radio International for taking part today. I know you're all very, very busy, and to take this amount of time out of your day is a testament to how important this work is. And also all of the attendees. We've had about 30 people on board this whole time. Nobody's dropped off. So clearly it's interesting for the listeners as well. We will have a recording of this available and sent out to everyone that RSVP'd to the session. And of course, you can share it with colleagues that weren't able to make it as well. So with further ado, I think we're going to move on to answering some of the questions that were put forward in the Q&A. And hopefully we have some good answers for them. So the first one is a difficult one, and I actually might need to try to answer this because I'm involved in some of this, so I hope that's allowed. So Abdul Rahman Danbaba asks, I would like to know your method of tracking listenership of your program and effective reach. And it's sort of a follow-up question, was actually very, very similar. I'm interested in how tracking of listenership is carried out, as well as the validity of this tracking. Ben, did you want to take a try at that, or do you want me to give a try at answering that question?
Yeah, I think you can take that one straight.
Okay. Feel free to jump in because you've dealt with this quite a bit as well. We don't have our monitoring and evaluation team on the call today, unfortunately, so I'll try to do my best at answering this question. Listenership is very difficult, actually, to measure. There are a few ways to do it. The traditional way is to work with a media monitoring agency, someone like Geopol or Nielsen, someone that actually has a group of people that they poll and ask them, what did they listen to on radio and what did they watch on TV the day before, that type of thing. The problem with those types of services, they're excellent, but they're very expensive. So it's not a trivial cost for a radio station to actually do that. at least multiple times per year. So what we've done is we've created a process in-house at Farm Radio International where we, as Ben mentioned, I think someone mentioned in the text answer to the question, we start with actually measuring the physical reach of the transmitter of the radio station. And we do that through a combination of a few things, like the height of the transmitter, how powerful it is, as well as taking into account topography. So what the surrounding land looks like. So we sort of use a physics equation to figure that out, and it creates a nice plot for us to look at. Once we have that kind of generalized area of where we think the program reaches, we actually overlay population data onto that. That population data generally comes from the census, the most recent census in Nigeria or whatever country we're working in. So that gives us an idea of like who could listen to a program, or what we call often potential listeners. What we do when we have a big enough monitoring and evaluation budget in a project is we will actually run an outcome evaluation that includes actually a randomly sampled survey, as random as we can possibly get. So what we've used, and I hope I'm using the right terms, hopefully our M&E people don't yell at me for this, but we're using what we call a two-stage cluster sample. So we're actually trying to divide up the area of the radio program reach, and we sample from all of these areas through clusters. And through random sampling within communities, we get a sense of how many people listen to the program, how many episodes they listen to, but we also ask other questions such as, did you uptake a practice, or did you change your knowledge, that type of thing. So what we do is we actually try to extrapolate from that randomized survey. It's not perfect. Obviously, it relies on statistics and getting as random a sample as possible, but that's generally how we do it when we have the budget to do so. And of course, we do work with Geopol and Nielsen from time to time as well. So hopefully that was a good answer. The next question, and I'll send it over to Dr. Babajide actually. Attribution of success to mass media can be tricky. I would like to hear from the doctor how they managed to manage an attribution to Farm Radio International in the GIZ program.
Thank you, Mark. I would just like to respond by saying that during the project design, we agree with Farm Radio on how to go about this. And there are some best practices that were shared with us, how they've done it in other locations. And I mentioned in the chat already that Farm Radio will be willing to give more information on how this is done. But we are satisfied with the approaches presented to us. So based on that, we agreed we could proceed. So the results we are getting is satisfactory to us. But I think the individual may engage more with Charles for more details. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ben, would you, or Ben or Blessing, would you want to speak to that at all? Anything to add around attribution versus contribution? We know that that's often a big issue actually when it comes to any development project, and when it comes to media, that can be even more tricky as the question came in.
Yes, I think during the process of our baseline, we first of all check not just in terms of uptake, but we first of all check the knowledge of the listeners before the program begins by conducting a knowledge test. And then we are also able to measure increase in knowledge. And then we also check on attitudes. This also gives us the opportunity to know what attitude they have towards the practices and then what has changed. And then at the end, we also check the practices. What were they practicing before, and then how they are practicing after, or uptakes that they have as a result of listening to radio. During the course of this, we also had the opportunity to sample people who have received training directly from the GIZ face-to-face training, and those who are also outside the groupings that are receiving direct training from GIZ. So all this were available as part of the uptake result that we shared. So you can have those who are working directly, who are receiving both training from GIZ and also those who are not receiving training, and all these results are there. I'm very sure we can share the full report also with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Yes, so hopefully that was answered. If you have any other questions along those lines, I'm sure we can get into it. We do have quite a bit of time, actually, if we wanted to even speak more about attribution and contribution. But let's move on to the next one. And this is about gender mostly. So how do we ensure that these messages are heard, especially by women and people with disabilities that usually do not possess radios? So I think maybe Dr. Vo, if you wanted to try to answer that, and then of course, Blessing, you probably have some input on this as well, or anyone else on the panel, you can jump in.
I get the question again, please.
The question is, how do we ensure that messages on the radio are heard, especially by women and people with disabilities? These people often don't actually possess radios themselves.
I can't say that each one of them will not have access to radio. However, a radio thing could be a group thing. It doesn't have to be individual. So I know that there was in place a listening group of people a group of people coming together to listen to the radio's program. And that is done here in Jos or in Plateau.
Yeah,
Blessing,
thank
you want to? Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Vo, thank you for that answer. For people with disability, let's say maybe with maybe deafness, because we have so many already with in the villages with disability and their farmers, and then they belong to listening groups like Dr. Vo said. In case they don't have, they always have these listening groups in those areas, and then family members as part of the listening groups that they explain the same things, training to them. What I said on the radio program is transmitted back to them again. So they may not have radios. Most of them have radios from all our interactions with them. They have families who have radios who interact with them. They have CLGs, that the community listening groups they belong to. So and the way we have set up our listening groups, we have the leaders, we have the facilitator who ensures that every member of the group is following every topic that's shared and understands it and practices it on the farm. Thank you.
All right, I don't know if I should come in here.
Sure, go ahead.
What we did in Arewa Radio, Arewa Radio's focus was news, talk, sports, and agriculture. So when we were about to start Tomato Don River, what we started doing is we started trailing our programs. And it is unconventional with radios. I think we introduced that, except if there is a superior argument. What we do normally is we trail special programs in other programs. So when we wanted the women to participate in Tomato Don River, and when we wanted the people with disability to also participate, what we did was we played the promos of Tomato Don River we have a special program for the physically challenged, which is handled by a physically challenged person. So we trail Tomato Don River in that program, telling them when it is about to come on air, the date and time that it will break. And we did sing in the women-focused program. So that way, we're able to move traffic from other programs to Tomato Don River. Because when it came on board, we were very interested in Tomato Don River because we are also focused on agriculture as a radio station.
That's great. That's very smart marketing on your side, I think. I'll add something as well. It wasn't necessarily in these programs, but in our other countries we work in, we have actually pioneered a approach called Her Farm Radio. And this is an approach where we actually engage with community listening groups more formally. So they're not just there listening, but we actually help train them specifically. We get them solar powered radios. We also get them mobile phones and airtime for this specific period of the radio campaign. And we allow these women's groups actually to shape the program. So the idea is we're allowing women-based community listener groups to actually shape what is going to be the topic of that week for a specific program. We get that feedback in advance. They literally record questions and audio that goes directly on the air that is relevant to women, and try to really make it much more relevant to the female listening audience. So in that way, there's an element of including more technology that maybe doesn't exist, or maybe they don't have training or confidence in using, but also giving them a clear space in the program where it's set aside for that women's discussion to take place and those stories to be told. So that's just an add-on. I think I'm breaking the rules because I'm the host, but I'm answering questions. But I'm going to keep on doing it. So and the next question is also actually from the same person. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hawa Kabir. Thanks. It's good to hear that there was initial research done. The issues of access to the use of radio would have been established. Was there also an assessment of the value of the messages, I presume, that was established? So I think potentially, I think what they're asking is sort of, did we sort of test the ideas that were going to be in the radio with the listening audience beforehand, or ask them, what should be in the program, what should be the content of this program? That would likely probably go to Blessing or Ben, if you want to speak a little bit to how that process takes place, where farmers get their opinion and ideas into the radio program.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. And I think this is one of the things that help us to ensure that the program is owned by the listeners, because we conduct what we call the formative research that allow us, one, to know the knowledge gap that is there, and then to also know what the farmers already have more ideas on. And we also check with them the time that they want to listen to all this program. And before the end of a formative research, we also check with them the radio station that they would like to listen to. And carefully, we check with them on the key issues that we want to communicate on. And we check with them whether these are the real issues that they want to hear about. Specifically, what are the myths and misconceptions surrounding the issues we want to share with them, and what are the barriers and challenges that will prevent them from uptake. With this, we are able to get a clear information on how we can design a communication product that will meet their needs. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Blessing, would you like to add a little bit to that around how farmers are actually involved in the design process? If you have it, this is my question, I guess. How are farmers involved actually in the design of the radio program?
Yeah, I think Ben has actually touched on that. From the onset, from the design workshop, like I said earlier on, the design workshop, the content of the radio program itself is developed with farmers, alongside other value chain actors. So we have never broadcast any content without the consent of farmers. So farmers contributed, they told us, along with, in line with the cropping season. They told us what they are doing, when they do what, when is the land preparation done, when is the planting done, the harvesting. So with them, we created content for the radio program. So the content is not ours. The content is from the farmers right through the value chain actors. Thank you.
Do any of the other panelists want to speak to that at all in terms of participation in the development of this type of media? If not, we can go to the next question, but I just want to give a chance to each of the speakers if they want to add something. And for the audience, while we're waiting, if you do have more questions, please send them in through the Q&A button. We can try to address them. We have about 10 minutes left, so we can keep on going here. The next question is from...
Can I add something briefly?
Yeah, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Yes, I know Mr. Emmanuel Shipi mentioned this during his presentation. Being a farmer, farmers would like to hear from him directly concerning the issues that we normally deal with during the radio program. And for every radio program, there is a farmer voice that is included. And that was very well appreciated by the farmers, because the radio team goes directly to the farmers, interact with them, record their voices, and make sure they respond to key issues by sharing what they already know with the other farmers. That was really appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if I can come in. Somebody had asked a question.
Sure, go ahead.
What is the coverage of the Arewa radio station? Arewa broadcasts on 2,500 megawatts. So our coverage, real time, according to the MPS data, which came out yesterday, Arewa has 2,862,441 listeners. That is real time. And then our coverage is part of Jigawa State, part of Zamfara State, part of Katsina State, up to Malumfashi, Daura, even the Magaran in Niger, and part of Zamfara and part of Kebbi State. And these are verified. And then, of course, for now, I humbly want to say no radio station which broadcasts in Hausa is more visible on social media as much as Arewa Radio. Our news are streamed live on Facebook, and some of our programs, including Tomato Deliver, are streamed live on Facebook, apart from on the app and also on the apart from the mobile app and the website. So that's another thing I wanted to say. And then the other one is that somebody had asked, and Mark has answered on the listenership. For us on radio, is that there's an independent survey conducted by an independent organization. They call it Media Product Survey. It is what every agency uses to plan advertisement. So as a station, we subscribe to the MPS data monthly. Then we have a research team in our company who do the breakdown of minutes, 15 minutes, and then every broadcaster will be able to see his performance at the end of every month, as well as every program. So we know the numbers for every of our programs.
That's great. That's very valuable. I think in our experience, most radio stations, especially in other countries, not in Nigeria, don't have access to that same kind of survey. Usually it's quite expensive to subscribe, but I think Nigeria has probably a more kind of developed system for doing those regular surveys, which is really interesting and very, very valuable to know, by the time slot, how are they doing in terms of listenership and share, I guess, radio share, I guess you guys talk about a lot as well. So let me go to we have one more question here that we have flagged. Abdul Rahman Dan Baba again, he's asking, Tomato Don Riba is an interesting program. I've listened to it once when I have the time. With the closure of the YieldWise project, which it was part of, how is the program faring? Has any business partner in YieldWise offered to take it up and continue with the program? So I think maybe Prince, I don't know if you have any information about this, how the program is doing now, and then what's the future for it?
Yes, the good thing about the program is that it has fared well because comparatively, it has done better than our traditional agri program, which was all-encompassing, general agriculture. And from tracking, we were able to establish that. And then we've opened discussions too with a few organizations. One of them happens to be Pexera. They came, we had a discussion. But as a matter of policy, is that whether there is a sponsor or not, we intend to keep the program. And the idea is because it has added value to the station. It has also added value to our listeners. So it is one of such programs that quarter after quarter, we will not drop it. I just finished the program schedule for the first quarter of 2021, and it is there. So whether sponsors come or not, is that it helps us to keep it as a reference point program that other programs will model after, as well as it's also open for any sort of partnership or collaboration.
Great, thank you. So I think we're probably out of time here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a slide on the screen here. A lot of people have asked, how can we partner? What can we do together? You can send an email to this email address, info@farmradio.org, and we'll make sure that it goes to the right place. Whether it's in Nigeria or Ghana or somewhere else in West Africa or even East Africa, we're currently operating in about 13 different countries. So feel free, even if some of your colleagues actually are in another country, and we can explore partnership together. We will be sharing the presentation once again. So if you want to share it with your colleagues, please do so. Blessing, I think you wanted to come in and just do a final thank you. If you want to do that now, that's perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to all of you, particularly our presenters who spoke earlier on. Thank you so much for sharing and being with us today. And for all our participants, we appreciate your coming. We are sure that right now you understand a bit about what we do and how we do what we do here in Nigeria and other parts of the world, and particularly West Africa. I also want to say that it's possible to keep in touch with us in case you are in need of any want to maybe find out more about us. Tara has just shared on our chat some of the links that you can actually connect with with us, and then Mark is also sharing on the screen right now. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Mark, for being a very, very wonderful host. Thank you to Karen, Ben, Charles, and everybody. Aboki, thank you so much. We are grateful that you were able to make time with us today. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Blessing. So we'll wrap up now, and we'll stop the meeting. Again, look forward to hearing from us in the future. We'll send more emails out to this group and share the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure that